Hello everyone, how are you all? Welcome to my channel Social Science with Shilpa. So in today's class, we are going to talk about some of the kingdoms which emerged during the 700 to 1200 CE. This period of 700 to 1200 CE witnessed witnessed the rise of several new kingdoms and even decline of many. That is but obvious. Some were regionals and some grew their area of control to a larger extent. So in this module, we are going to talk about some of those dynasties who were very powerful and who were victorious during the early medieval period. So some of those dynasties about which we are going to cover in this today's lesson is the Rajputs, the Gujra Pratiharas, the Rashtrakutas, and the Palas. Cholas we'll cover in the next module. So coming to the Rajputs. So the Rajputs were, as the name, this word has been taken up from the Sanskrit word that is Rajputra, means son of a king or a ruler. So I hope the meaning of the Rajput is clear. Raja ka putra, Rajputra. Next. So now in this dynasty had a little controversy regarding their origin. Some believe that they were the descendants of the Central Asian tribe. So it is not actually clear regarding who they were or what was their origin, but as for the study done by the historians, they are believed to be the descendants of the Central Asian tribe. Now there one more question arises regarding, they believe that they were the Kshatriyas because they were the prince Rajputras. So their lineage is usually asserted that they were Kshatriyas. These Rajputs were divided into three kulas. So these three kulas, some believe that there were Suryavanshi, means belonging to sun family. Some believe that they were Chandravanshi or belong to moon's family, lunar family. And some believe that they are born out of the sacred sacrificial fire. So now let's talk about these Rajputs and their different clans one by one in the next slide. So the Rajputs had different clans, all controlling different parts of the country. So they grew victorious. Their prominence grew during the 9th and 10th century, and they became very victorious in different parts of the country. Some controlled Rajasthan, some were controlling Central Asia, and some were controlling some other regions of the country. So in this module, we'll just cover their main contribution or about a particular ruler of that dynasty. So first, let us start with the Tomars. So Tomars were the ones who founded the city of Dilika. Initially, they were ruling Dilika, but once Prithviraj Chauhan was married to one of the daughters of Tomars, so Delhi was gifted to Prithviraj Chauhan as a dowry. So next to the Chauhans or Chahmanas. Prithviraj Chauhan was the most powerful ruler of Chauhan dynasty or Rajput clan of Chauhans. He was known for his bravery, for his valor, and even you might have heard about the book written on him, that is Prithviraj Raso, written by Chandra Bardai, who was a very close friend and a poet of his court, who have mentioned that he was so powerful, so brave, that Muhammad Ghori had taken out both his eyes, but then also with his presence of mind, his war skill, he was able to kill Muhammad Ghori. Although this is only a story, but actually not a reality, but yes, it proves that he was a very powerful and a very brave king. Coming to next, third clan of Rajput, that is Solankis. So they were the ones who constructed Delwara temple at Mount Abu in Rajasthan. The Pawars or the Paramars. So the Pawars or Paramars, one of the most powerful ruler of Pawar was the Bhoj Paramar. The next dynasty, next clan of Rajput is the Gahadwalas. So in Gahadwalas, the Raja Jayachandra. About Raja Jayachandra, we'll study when we'll talk about the Battle of Tarain. So Raja Jayachandra ruled over Kannauj. He was the enemy of Prithviraj Chauhan. Now what he did for his enmity, we'll study in Battle of Tarain. The last of the Rajput clan, the Chandelas. So the most powerful of Chandela ruler was Kirtivarman. And you might have heard about Khajuraho temples, which are in present day Madhya Pradesh, which has a number of beautifully carved temples. So all this is the contribution of the Chandela dynasty. So this was all about the Rajputs. I hope you understood about the Rajputs. Now let's move to the next dynasty of the early medieval period, that is the Gujarat Pratiharas. So the area of control, the area where the Gujarat Pratiharas ruled was the Western India, that is a part of Rajasthan, and some parts of Central India. Some of the powerful rulers of the Gujarat Pratiharas were the Nagbhat I. He was successful in controlling the Arabs in their invasion towards India. Then Vatsaraj, Mihir Bhoj, again a powerful ruler, and Mahendrapala. So these were some of the powerful rulers who belonged to Gujarat Pratiharas. They captured Kannauj during the tripartite struggle and made it their capital. The main strength of the Gujarat Pratihara was their war skill, their military skill. With that military skill, they were able to extend their empire, they were able to annex so many territories and to increase their kingdom. They had trade links with the Central Asia. And let me tell you one thing, the horses of the Arabia, Central Asia, are of very good quality. That's a very good breed to participate in a war. And you know that these dynasties were in constant wars amongst each other. So they wanted good war equipments and even good horses. One traveler, Al-Masudi, in his travelogue, he mentioned about the power and prestige of Gujarat Pratiharas. This dynasty declined at the end of 10th century when Mahmud of Ghazni, he invaded India. And with that invasion, because he was a very victorious, very powerful invader, so that led to the decline of the Gujarat Pratiharas. So that was all about Gujarat Pratiharas. Now moving to the Palas. The area of control of Palas was the eastern India, what we call the present day Bengal, Bihar, and some parts of Assam. Yes, Assam as well. Then Odisha and some parts of Nepal. So these regions were under the control of Palas. See, because in the tripartite struggle, there was a constant fight between Rajputas, Gujarat Pratiharas, and Palas. So at one point of time, Palas realized that it is difficult to conquer Kannauj. So they preferred to move towards the east rather than towards the west, towards Kannauj. So they conquered those areas in eastern side and ruled that region. Gopala was the founder of Pala dynasty. He had very powerful successors like Dharampala, Devpala, Rampala. They all were very powerful, victorious, and brave warriors. And moreover, they were the patrons of Buddhism. Dharampala has been honored, or we can say he has contributed to our culture, to our education system by establishing a university named Vikramshila, which is in Bihar. What the main strength of this dynasty was their territorial expansion. As I told you earlier, that they extended towards eastern side. So towards which side they extended, that already I have discussed. And they had trade link with Southeast Asia because they were towards the eastern India. So it was easy for them to have trade links with the countries which are in the Southeast Asia. So they had very good relation. The traders used to trade with the central Southeastern Asian countries. Some of the Tibetan travelers have written about the patronization of the Palas towards Buddhism, and that patronization is clearly reflected by opening of the Vikramshila University, which is also called as a Mahavihara. Vihar is a place where the Buddhist monks and nuns lived. So Vikramshila is a Mahavihara, means a great place where the Buddhist monks and nuns, they stay, they do their religious study, they preach the people about the religion. And this dynasty declined with the succession of Sena dynasty, which ultimately declined with the invasion of the Turks. So this was all about the Palas. Now coming to the Rashtrakutas. Now, Rashtrakutas, another dynasty which was involved in the tripartite struggle. They controlled the parts of present-day Maharashtra and Karnataka. The founder of Rashtrakuta, Dantivarman, yeah, Danti Durga. If you remember in our previous class, I talked to you about Danti Durga, that he performed Hiranyagarbha ritual. Moreover, even I told you about that Danti Durga was a Samanta under the Chalukyas. So he was the founder of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, and he was also followed by a strong, able successors who were great warriors and great administrators. Their capital city was Manyakhet, which is in present-day Maharashtra. Their strength was their administration and their war skill. This dynasty has witnessed great warriors who were very good at war skills and great administrators who were very good at ruling. What a country or a dynasty would need to grow, that is the war skill and the ruling skill. So this dynasty has witnessed some of the rulers who were great warriors and great administrators as well. Along with their administration and war skill, they were patrons of art, architecture, and literature, which is a rare mix. Means knowing war skill and having love for art, architecture, literature. So a wonderful mixture was found in this dynasty. This dynasty has contributed a lot in our Indian culture. The rock-cut cave temples at Elephanta, which is in present-day Mumbai. Even the Kailashnath cave temples, which are in Ellora. So these temples are the contribution of the Rashtrakuta dynasty. Not only monuments, they have also contributed in literature. Amoghavarsa was a great poet of this dynasty. He was an able ruler also. He wrote poems in Kannada, and one of his famous poem was Kavi Rajmarg. Along with this, they were very tolerant rulers. Tolerant in terms, they had respect for all the religions. They themselves patronized all the religion. They were Jain by their religion, but they did not let down any other religion. They traded with Muslims, and most importantly, they even allowed the preaching of Islam in their kingdom. So this proves that they were the tolerant rulers who had a secular approach towards the other religions. So this was all about the three dynasties who were in constant fight amongst each other over Kannauj. Now, so the Kannauj, you have heard Kannauj several times. Now you would be wondering, ma'am, what is which area was Kannauj on the map of India, or why was it everyone's desire to get Kannauj? So let's move to Kannauj. Kannauj was a symbol of power. It is situated in the heart of Ganga Plains. Now, what made Kannauj the symbol of power? First, it had strategic location. It has a trade route from eastern side and from southern side, which made it very lucrative for every dynasty, for every ruler to control it. Because by controlling trade of an area, they can control the traders, they can control the trade, and they can even earn more revenue from the traders or through a trade that takes place from that region. So the first reason why it was symbol of power was its strategic location in terms of trade route. Second reason for its importance was it had rich sources, it had rich resources of minerals, which made it even more popular amongst the rulers to capture. Then the third and again very important reason was the vast fertile land. Since it was in Ganga plains, so Ganga we know it has alluvial soil, which is a fertile land, fertile soil. So agriculture again very important, minerals again important to make war equipments. For other needs of the metals, minerals are required, and obviously trade for growing the economy of a dynasty. So these three regions made Kannauj everyone's desire, and that led to the tripartite struggle. Now, tripartite struggle was over Kannauj. This you have understood by now. So this struggle aimed at to revive the notion. To revive means to have that idea, to rebuild that idea that one dynasty will rule the entire country. Because Kannauj controlled the trade route, it was a fertile land, had a lot of resources. So controlling Kannauj would let any dynasty to control other parts of the country or to become the ruler of the whole Indian subcontinent. So the area of the dynasties involved were the Rashtrakutas, the Gujra Pratiharas, and the Palas. So these three dynasties continuously had fight amongst each other to capture or to control Kannauj. Now, every ruler of these dynasty for several generations, they kept on fighting. During the reign of Rampala, one of the successor of Devpala of the Pala dynasty, faced a revolt somewhere in Bengal. This resulted in Pala losing their control over Kannauj. So one dynasty can take control of one side area only. So if they are moving towards Kannauj and being attacked from eastern side, so it's obvious that they may get diverted. So this led to their lose the area Kannauj. Then next reason, the Rajputas were consolidating their position. They gained control over Kannauj. But Rajputa also lost their control when Gujra Pratihara ruler Bhoj, he overpowered or he defeated Rajputas. So Kannauj was under then Gujra Pratiharas. Then finally, so first lost from Palas, then Rajputa lost Kannauj, and then it came to Gujra Pratiharas. And finally, Gujra Pratiharas were unable to keep their control over Kannauj when they were attacked by Mahmud of Ghazni in 1018 CE. So with that struggle, all these three Indian dynasties, they lost their control over Kannauj, and Kannauj came under Mahmud of Ghazni. So finally, with this constant fight, constant campaigning which was done, so these three dynasties declined simultaneously. Their strengths were similar and they were dependent on well-organized army. So you know very well that to fight, a ruler would need an army. And for army, you need salary, you need resources. So because of constant campaign, organizing large army and well-organized army, obviously if you want to defeat a powerful competitor, you need to have a strong military force. So because of that strong military force, a lot of expenditure was done on military. So there was a lot of pressure on the source of revenue. This led to the Samantas taking advantage of the diversion of the king towards Kannauj. So because of constant campaign, it indirectly meant maintenance of large armies and therefore pressure on the source of revenue. And while they remained busy over the conflict over Kannauj, the Samantas took advantage and declared themselves as independent. So all these factors finally led to diminishing of the resources and ultimately the fall of the dynasties. So this was all about the tripartite struggle, the rise and the fall of Rashtrakutas, the Palas, and the Gujra Pratiharas. So I'm very sure you all have liked the video and would have found it worth watching. Do share it, like it, and subscribe it, because I'm going to put some more interesting videos which are related to social science, but a very different topic, not related to textbook. So please do subscribe to get those videos instantly. Thanks for watching. God bless you. Keep rocking, keep smiling. God bless you all.